Alright y'all, we're back working on the headache rack again. Not quite finished. Before I paint it, I want to go ahead and mount my lights, drill my holes, run my wires and everything for my lights. I'm going to do a third brake light and 2 pod lights right here. I picked them up at Tractor Supply. So basically one right here mounted, one in that corner, and then the third brake light, which I got lucky and it fits perfect right in between those bars. It pressure fits. So I think that'll look pretty cool. I just got to weld some little tabs to where this can mount to and drill my hole. Alright, so I went ahead and mounted the light to this little piece of flat bar here, and maybe a hole for my wires to go through, and pre-drill my holes, put my screws through it. These are some stainless screws, and I'm just going to mount it, and that's basically where it would be, like so. I'm just going to tack that flat bar in place, and that should do it for that. Alright, so I got that mounted in place. The only thing I have to do now is drill my hole for my wire. And I think I'll just go straight up and then down the tube and out the bottom. So right off the rip, these lights, I'm not satisfied with a few things about it. First of all, this is the screw slash bolt that came with it. It's got a lock nut on it and an Allen head on the other, which there's nothing wrong with that, but whenever you mount this in place, it is nearly impossible to get wrenches if it's in any kind of a tight spot. So I ended up messing up the screw just trying to tighten it up, and I had to cut it off. So I had to go to the hardware store and pick up some new bolts and nuts. So hopefully I can get it in there, because I can't even get a socket because they don't allow you enough room to put a socket on there, barely. So I'm gonna try to tighten it up outside here and then try to put my self-tapping screw for the bracket. Another thing I'm not too happy about with these lights is these gigantic plugs. I mean, I understand the concept in case you want to unplug it, to remove the light. It's easy, to swap it out. But geez, this thing's huge. You'd have to drill a 1-inch hole for the application that I want to do. So I don't know if I'm gonna drill the hole and put it into the headache rack, because this big giant thing might rattle around up in there. I may just cable tie it. We'll see. So I'm having a lot of trouble mounting these pod lights. It was real difficult to get around this bar and everything, so I probably should have prepared better before I put these bars in to get my mounting hardware situated. I was going to mount it here at first, but I didn't like the way the light was so far out, so I just put a self-tapping screw to plug the hole for now. I may pull that out, weld the hole shut, and grind it down if it bothers me. I got my hole for my wire to go through with a little plastic grommet, and I've got a mounting hole here for the bracket for the pod light. But man, it's been fighting me the whole way. So here's what it's supposed to look like with the bracket. Nearly impossible to get a bolt through that in any kind of situation, really. It's very difficult. I don't know why they made the bracket that way. They should have made it wider with multiple mounting holes. So what I'm doing here is I just got a piece of galvanized flat board that's got the holes in it already, just laying around. I grinded down the galvanized coating off so I can weld it. I'm going to basically weld that onto there. That way I can put a hole, I can mount it right here. So we'll see how that works. But yeah, I'm gonna just weld this bracket to that flat bar. All right, so I got that welded on. Let them cool down, and I'm gonna throw a little primer and paint on that and see if that's gonna work out for me. All right, so here's what I got going on. So now I should be able to get to the mounting hole a lot better than, you know, up in there. So I'm gonna let this paint dry and see if I can get that mounted up in there. All right, so that only took several hours just to come up with that. So it's not touching the bar. I know it looks like it is, but it's not. It is adjustable. I can go up and down and side to side. So the plug is so big. I mean, that's just how it's gonna have to look. This is it from the back side. I may put something to secure it down, maybe on this little square tubing or something, but I'll have to deal with that later. Let's see if I can get this side mounted. All right, so I've only got them mounted, and I think I figured out a way for the wires not to look so crazy to where you don't notice it so much. On the back side here, as you can see, it's going up into the tubing here, and it just loops up in there. So it seems pretty solid. Hopefully it works. Now I think I'm gonna wire it up to where I can have the wires routed in it, so when I paint it, the wires already be there. All right, y'all, so I've been fighting this headache rack for about an hour or so, just trying to run wires in it. I see why it's called a headache rack, because it's a headache. So I figured a 2x4 square tubing, I would be able to run this little bitty tiny wire in there fairly easy. Not the case. I forgot that I put these pipe cylinders inside where it bolts up, so that's an obstruction. I also forgot that I did a bunch of cuts in here, so all the weld is creating friction as it's not smooth on the inside, especially right here. But we did manage to get the wire from this point to that point. So the only thing I can think of doing is drilling like a 3/4 inch hole right here and do the same thing I did from here to here down there. And I know I can get from there to there. And once the wires are in and I got them tied off like I got right here, I'll just go ahead and weld that back up and grind it down like it never even happened, like I meant to do it that way. So I'm doing about a 3/4 inch hole here, and with any luck, when I pull it out, it'll keep the little piece that I cut out, and I can put that back in when I'm done to weld it back. So thanks to Christina's help, we finally got it. I got this heavy duty weed eater string that I've been using to fish it through. It's stiff enough. We finally got it all the way to that point. And what we had to do is drill a hole right here. And the piece that came out of the hole saw, I'm just gonna tack it back in place, weld it all up, grind it down, and my wires will be in. I guess I just should have done this an hour ago. So we got all our wires in, dedicated power and ground for each light. Now I'm going to attempt to weld this back into here, grind it all down like it never even happened. All right. Can you roll that part to me, son? Yeah. All right. Serve Pro, like I never even have it. Go ahead and grind that down and you'll never know. We'll go do the other side. All right, here's another update on the headache rack. Got this little flashy light dealy. It goes green and white. Picked it up for like $100 on Amazon. It came with a magnet mount where it had 4 little round 2.5 inch, 3 inch round mounts, and it sat a little bit taller and looked kind of tacky because it was hanging off the bar on each end. So I took those off and just cut the bracket a little bit and drilled me a hole right in the center of that bracket, and I just have a bolt going through it with a lock washer, and I got a little rubber isolator gasket in between it just to help from vibrations and such. But it's about 1 inch gap. Another thing I did is, if you notice, it's more this way. I didn't want it to hang over the headache rack in case I ever put something big against the headache rack. I didn't want it to hit the light, so I flushed it up. I ran a wire inside the tube for this light, but when the light came in, notice it's not a hard wire, it's a plug and play type thing. And I could get a female socket with 2 wires, but there's no way to run this in that pipe, and I wasn't drilling a hole that big to run that through. Would have just been a pain. I didn't want to cut it and resolder it, so I ended up just drilling a few holes down in the flat bar here. It's a black wire, pretty inconspicuous, so I'm just going to go ahead and route it under the truck. I'm going to use a female receptacle and just tie wrap it under the dash, so that way it has a toggle switch on and off. I'll just leave it in the on position, and I'll use my auxiliary switch on my roof of my truck. So have the wires here. This is the for the 3rd brake light, and these are for the spotlights in the back, or reverse lights, extra reverse lights. And I got them running down below into the tube. So just got to paint it, and then I can mount all the lights on it.